Hello, everybody. We give people a few minutes to join and we'll get started. I think the chat's been disabled, but as we go through, feel free to type any questions, comments, concerns in the Q&A tab. I'm flying solo tonight, so I won't be able to kind of keep an eye on that, but there should be plenty of time for questions at the end. Some of you guys are former students. Hello. Hope everybody is well. Weather's finally getting nice. End of the school year is coming up. I'm very excited about that. All right, we'll give it another few seconds. We have about, a lot more people signed up. So we'll give people a few more minutes. Actually, we won't wait too long. We'll get started. I'll be recording this and post it around. And a few people said they couldn't make it. And they wanted to look at the video, which we'll post up on YouTube. Hopefully get that up there tonight. All right, let me get stuff ready here. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Chuck Zucco. I've been running this company since, I founded it back in 1999. And tonight we want to talk about the upcoming new general curriculum exam. Kind of walk you through what I notice of it, and then tell you about the current programs we have for the multi-subject and the math, because you only have 2 more opportunities to take a class before the test changes, and we really don't know what we are in store for. And I'll explain my concerns to you about the new test. In general, they've been making MTELs easier and giving people more opportunities like flex and the alternative assessments on the communication literacy. But I'm not sure this new exam will be easier for people, just like I was a little worried about the early childhood test, we just changed too. And, 2 of our kind of specialties that we work on here. A little bit about the company. Again, I founded this back in 1989, a local small business. And our teachers are public school educators, and we're all special educators with a special education background, all the teachers that have worked for me. And we work with many public schools, colleges over the years. I've had at least 4,000 students, many different tests over the last 20 years. I've always guaranteed success, unconditionally can repeat classes for free. Our curriculum really works for anybody. Again, I've got a special ed background, so everything we do is really developed within a special ed framework. And that's one of the reasons why I've always guaranteed the program, because people coming to us come from all different walks of life. They could have special ed issues, clinical issues, ESL, career changes, haven't been to school in 30 plus years. So it's very important to me that you come in and you do well and you feel happy and you tell your friends, right from the beginning. At least a third of our students, as much as we spend on, Facebook and Google ads, really come from referrals from people who've taken the class and we're very happy. So that's very important to me. I think we do things very differently than other programs. Again, the curriculum is developed and delivered by special educators. And we actually really try to teach and want you to understand what's going on. Some other programs out there, they don't let you ask questions. We encourage questions and understanding. We really work on very basic to advanced skills, and test-taking strategies are really interwoven into everything we do. Like you say, hey, we care about you, but we kind of do. I mean, a lot of you guys have had me as a teacher in the past. You can reach out to me on Facebook, by text, email, and I'm going to respond. I'll answer individual questions. And so it's not like, hey, you took your class, adios, see you later. We have a Facebook group where we encourage a lot of interaction between the instructors and the students themselves. It's really become a nice community of learners and educators that, not just MTEL things come up, but lots of things in general. And we don't have 150 people in a Zoom. We at most will have 30 or so people, so that we really can teach and give people the attention that they need and deserve. We have live Zoom classes. There are some self-paced video programs. Individual tutoring is always available, and we have the new Flex consultation and review. Here are the different tests that we've worked with. Again, they're all unconditionally guaranteed. I won't bore you with all of these. You can look this up on the website at any time. Self-paced programs. And we have tutoring available for lots of different programs. I've worked with people on many different MTELs that I don't have an idea of what the hell is going on with some of that content, but I can teach the test-taking strategies, and I can walk you through like how to structure and write the open response for almost anything. So, we're open to trying to help wherever we can. All right. So here is why we're here, right? Looking at the new test versus the current test, right? This is going to change. April 21st is what they're saying right now. So April 20th, the last 03 will be given, the 21st, the 78. Now, this could change. They've been known for saying we're going to do one thing and then they could postpone it. They wouldn't move it up, but it may be postponed. Maybe we'll see it in October. Who knows? But for now, we're really focused on that August 21st date. Some things are very similar. There are some important differences, however. They're still broken up into two exams, okay? This is reversed. I'm sorry, I didn't flip this. I did flip that. So the current test has 100 multiple choice questions. The new test, and I have it on the wrong side here, has 160 multiple choice questions. All right, so there are two halves. There's English and history together, science and math together. The current test has math separate from the other subjects, and they have 45 math, 55 English, science, history, but it's 60 English history, 60 math science questions, okay? And one open response each. So there are more questions on the new exam. Still have 4 hours to pass it. 240 is still the passing score. So here's how it breaks down specifically. The current multi-subject, about 20 English, 18 history, science. There are always a couple more English, it seems. The multiple choice questions are worth 90% of the score, open response, 10%. The current mathematics test, 45 math questions, 90% multiple choice, 10% open response. So very similar in terms of the multiple choice questions being 90%, open response 10%. The new test, the 78, language arts, history, social science, about 20 English, 40 history questions. The math, about 35 math questions, 25 science questions. All right, so that's probably the opposite of what people want to hear. People probably want more English and more science rather than math and the history, but that's how they structured it. Again, leading me to be worried about the content and if it's going to be an easier or harder exam. For me, the big problem is going to be in the open response questions that we'll get to in a sec. We don't have a lot of information. They've released one document with 10 multiple choice questions. And those questions they release before a practice test are usually decent, in my experience, going back again, almost 25 years, but don't give a real full flavor of what you'll see on the test. All right, just kind of a little bit of a hint. The test objectives, however, I didn't get into great depth with these. All right, when I start developing the new program, I'll get into more depth. The test objectives look fairly similar at a first glance. So I expect the content on the multiple choice questions to be similar to what they are now, meaning you have to know history, you have to know English, you have to know science, you have to know math and do math, for example, on the exams. Okay. So again, I expect similar content, similar questions. Of course, selfishly, I'm hoping they're almost exact so I don't have to rewrite. If you guys have seen my materials, I have hundreds of pages. I'm hoping to do as little work as possible to get you guys ready for the next exam so we can kind of hit the ground running and, less work for me. The open response questions and what they've released, and usually these are a good indicator of what we'll see in the real test when it comes out. All right, the sample open responses may not be exact, but they're really good, usually a really good idea, gives us an idea of what we'll see on the test. The current structure in the multi-subject, it's very content heavy. So you have to memorize a lot of information. You have to know history, know science. The math question, there is an analysis of the student work, and you have to explain what's going on within the context of math concepts. Okay. So they're both tricky, but I think they are relatively manageable if you're kind of good at memorizing things. Okay. The new exam, I think it's not as simple just to memorize what is on the test or memorize the content. It takes a lot more. For example, and we'll look at these specifically in a minute. The language arts open response, the one they released, it gives 2 passages on the Magna Carta. Now, we cover the Magna Carta in class now for those of you who might have taken the class before. We talk about the Magna Carta. It's an open response on the current version of the exam. But this isn't just saying, tell me about the Magna Carta, okay? And how does it influence American history or American government, whatever it says. This gives us 2 historical passages. They're going to be primary or secondary sources. And the Magna Carta goes back to 1215, right? Long time ago. But they take the historical passage and then they ask you kind of an English question. They want you to define and describe the main ideas of each passage and kind of compare and contrast them. Like, what are the points of view of this versus this passage? And you have to cite evidence in the passage to support your answer. All right, so it's a very different experience than this test. The test before the current O3, they gave an English passage and they asked you to define the theme of the passage and give me two literary devices that the author's using to convey a theme. All right, so it's similar to that. We have to read something live and come up, analyze. So that was hard for people, okay? And if history freaks you out and you got to read a passage on history and then do kind of some high level thinking and explaining, that worries me, okay? The math question, it's kind of similar in terms of they give you a scenario and they want you to explain the science behind it and then use some math to answer a question about the science. All right. And, that seems daunting as well. So that's why I wanted to get this out there to say, hey, the time to pass this test is now, not wait until the test changes. All right. Because what I see worries me a bit. So open responses are very different. It may be less content dependent, but it's much more analytical than it is currently. For some people, it will be easier, but I think it'd be much more difficult for other people who have difficulty handling a lot of information, processing things very quickly, and writing things very quickly. All right, so it's going to be, I think, taxing people with a lot of demands that may be difficult. Here is a current. Right now, you may get a question like this. This is right from the, one of their publications, asking about mercantilism. They give you a little blurb up top, right? Mercantilism was this thing, blah, blah, blah. And then they give you two things to respond to. Briefly discuss two ways the colonies of North America were affected by English mercantile system, and explain one way the mercantile system and triangular trades benefited England at the expense of the colonies. All right, so if you're good at memorizing, you could have enough information to write this without much trouble, right? Kind of memorization, not a lot of processing and analyzing. The current exam, again, there are two passages. We don't have them here, not worth it. But they ask you to compare the way two sources approach the significance of the Magna Carta. Write a response. The length is the same, 150 to 300 words, same thing. But here are the three prompts. Determine and compare the main ideas. So read and understand each. Tell me what the main ideas are, and then compare them to each other, right? Kind of part comparison contrast type thing. Then analyze and compare the purpose and point of view. So my guess is one will be saying Magna Carta was a good thing, and maybe one saying Magna Carta is not a good thing. You see what I mean? There's got to be some discrepancy between these two. You got to figure out what that discrepancy is and then explain it. And you have to integrate information and cite evidence. So you're going to have to use evidence. Literally, passage 1 in line 6 says this, whereas passage 2 in line 8, it says this. So it's going to be like writing a paper for school. Now, you're not going to have to, use footnotes and what have you, but that's essentially the thinking we have to have. So this, to me, is significantly more difficult and challenging than the previous version. Okay. And again, this is the ELA history version, the current multi-subject test. Math test, this is what we have now. Again, this is one of their publications. They give you some student work, as you can see here, and then the kid made some mistakes, and you have to analyze the kid's work, provide an alternative solution. So you correct the errors in the kid's work, explain why he made the mistake, provide the correct solution, and then solve it with an alternative method, right? If you guys are taking the test, you know this very well. We have a nice way where we structure how to write this, how to think about it, the whole deal. It can be challenging, but it's not a killer, really. The new exam. All right, so this had so much to it that it was difficult to fit it on a slide. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put it up on a document I have here. Where is my, all right, here it is right here. So here's the math science open response. Okay, and this is the sample they just released within the last month. So use the information that appears in the exhibit to complete the assignment that follows. So look at all the information that they have here, okay? So use your knowledge of Earth and space science, as well as your knowledge of representing and interpreting data to analyze the information provided and write again, 150 to 300 words, same length. And you have to use proportional reasoning to calculate the approximate height of the tree in feet. Show your steps, okay? So that's kind of the math thing, and that's not terribly difficult. Explain how and why the length and direction of the tree shadow changes at the different times of the day. All right, so we get a look at the travel, the sun's path, and how it would kind of shine down, and probably get into like, almost like phases of the moon, but during the day, right? How the sun is at different heights of the day. So that's a whole other conceptual thing in science we'd have to worry about. And here is the information you use to answer those questions. So they give you some data in here about, certain time. Here's what the height is of the shadow. Here's the length of this. The teacher is this tall. And so you have to use a proportion to figure out the length at certain times. And then you got to explain why the shadow would change at certain times. It's not terribly difficult scientifically or mathematically, but I think when you put everything together with all this data, it's going to be hard for people. Okay. And again, it's not even over yet, right? This is all more information you would use to answer the question. Okay. And they haven't given us what a strong response was or anything like that. And I'll be working on that stuff in August, right? When I'm getting ready for this program. But until then, we are full speed ahead on the current version of the exam, current version of my program for the exam. So let's explain what that is. So our programs, we've been running these since the mid-2000s. The current version of the general curriculum program was first given in March of 2009. And in the spring of 2008, they said, hey, we're going to redo this test. And we knew they were going to split it into math and the other subjects. So I started that summer before kind of beefing up the math part of my program. And the old general curriculum was very much like the old early childhood. It had all the content areas plus development, special ed, and that kind of thing. So we took that program and beefed up the content and the science, the history, and the math, and kind of got rid of the development that wasn't there anymore. So we've been working on this test from the very beginning, all right? And we've worked with people 5 times a year, been running classes at least 5 times a year since 2009 on this very test. So my experience and knowledge of this test, no one's going to top it. Just, it's been, again, however many years it's been. Always been guaranteed, right? If you have trouble, you don't take the test, you need more time for the information, you just let me know and you come back to the class for free. Always been that way and always will, as long as it's my company. We have 2 more programs before the new exam is released, one starting in a couple of weeks, and one is starting in the middle of July. Both will finish before that final date of August 21st. All right. There are 2 separate programs, right? One for multi-subject, one for the math, right? Separate programs. The multi-subject program, 4 2-hour sessions. There's homework and practice stuff after every session. 4 weeks, every session is once a week. The first week we talk about avoid the attractor, which is a kind of a test taking strategy I developed. I don't know if I invented anything in particular, but I think the way that I approach it and teach it is very different than you've seen before, I can pretty much guarantee. And it's really helpful for any test taking, but Pearson tests, MCAS and MTEL, very helpful. So you can use a lot of the things that I'll teach you with your students for MCAS. And we talk about the open response structure and the format that first week as well. And I see there are questions. I'll get to those as we get through here too. Whoops. Week 2, 3, 4, we focus on a different content area. We usually do science, history, and then the ELA. All the content necessary for the multiple choice questions and the open response questions is covered. We only talk about what we need to for the exam. There's nothing extra. A lot of these programs flood you with information. We don't do that. We know it's on the test. We don't waste your time and your brain power or anything you don't need. We shoot for understanding, right? A lot of people just kind of memorize practice questions. That's great, but if you don't understand the concept, you know, practice questions aren't going to be exact. Sometimes questions are inverted, right? The answer could be actually in the question, and the question is in the answer choice. And so we want you to understand the content and the concepts behind the questions so that you're prepared for anything they throw at you. And we encourage questions. All right, we want you to be involved in the process. The math program, it's 6 2-hour sessions once a week. You get homework and practice after every section. And the first couple of weeks, we're working on numbers and operations type stuff, really the basics, fractions, decimals, percents, ratios, and portions that make up the 40% of the multiple choice questions, right? Those numbers and operations questions. Very heavy on strategy. All right. So something I call make it easy. And then there's make it real. Ways you can take questions that you have no idea what to do, how to take a step. And it gives you ways of how to kind of work it out and think about it. By week 3, we're going into algebra and functions. And then we get into the stats and probability, geometry. And the last week, we cover the open response, because you need to know the math before you understand how to really write the open response. And we do a lot of practice with live questions and work them out together so you understand how to identify the kids' errors, how to articulate what the kid did wrong and why. Over the years, I found that you can get the answer right. You can get the correct answer to the problem and fail the open response if you don't precisely describe what they're looking for. So we spend a good amount of time talking about how to write the math open response. So here is a discount code. All right. So if you sign up within the next 24 hours for one of these programs, it's good for both GC20, you get extra 20% off. It'll come off right away. But again, it's going to expire in 24 hours. If you want to contact me, my information is right here. Website right at the bottom. All right. Join ETI, passthemtl.com. That was my old email, old website address. That's easy to remember. Either one goes to the same place. All right. And let me look here. Do you know the process I used to read out math questions? Is it tricky or straight? So this is a good question. The current test is very tricky, right? We talk about that in class, that the math isn't so hard, but it's very SAT-like, where it's as much logic reasoning as it is in math. From what I saw, it's still kind of tricky. And it might even be trickier because they're kind of throwing the science into it too, which would make it even harder. Like, what math do I do with this? It's a science question. So I hope they release more questions before then that give us a better idea. And what I'll do too is I go through every state that Pearson has tests, and I look at all their materials, every other state, and it gives me an idea of what they might be copying. All right, like Arizona's early childhood test is very similar to the current test that they just developed. The North Carolina math test is exactly the same as the current general curriculum math test here. So I'll be spending time looking and hopefully finding more questions that will inform me, but it's a very good question. Exact dates for the programs. It's on the website. I think, well, you know what? I can just look it up right here. I know one's in about 2 weeks. I think July 13th is one day. All right. So the math starts May 23rd. I'm pretty sure the general curriculum multi-subject starts the 25th of May. So May 23rd, May 25th. Tuesdays is the math, Thursdays is multi-subject. And then July 11th for the math. So I think July 13th for the multi-subject, July 11th for the math. I'm looking at the math, and the other one starts usually a couple days later. Good question about the math mirroring. This is what I'll be investigating probably when I get out of school. I'll start worrying about the developing these new programs. So I would say hopefully by mid-July, I have a really good idea of what it entails, and then I'll take that next month developing the new programs. I can tell you why they developed the math program. The old version of the general curriculum, so the one before 2009, elementary teachers and special ed teachers could pass that test without getting any math questions correct. Okay. So they could literally get every math question wrong and they could pass the test. And the state said, hey, that's not good. It was a big, STEM push with math and science. So they said, look, our teachers need to know how to do math and teach math. So that's why they split it originally, to make sure that teachers knew how to do the math. But I was saying this from the beginning, they went overboard with this math test. So I think they're trying to soften it with the science together. We'll know by the fall if they made it harder or easier. All right, but that's why. And I doubt they would ever join them together again for just the reason I'm describing. Okay. Brittany, good question. I just got an email from a student who attends Endicott College. Endicott released something, and usually the colleges get information before, the general population does. If you've passed a multi-subject, you don't have to take the new history English exam. Okay. If you've passed the math, you don't have to take the new math science exam. So you're kind of grandfathered in. You won't have to retake them. And again, that's what they say now. August 22nd, who knows? They've changed their mind, but I can't imagine they would make people retake it because people would sue, right? I guarantee you there'd be some kind of class action suit. So I don't think they would do that. And Deb, I think that's the same question. You guys probably asked the same thing here. All right. Once you pass one, you're good. All right, so make sure you write down this discount code here. All right, GC20. And yep, same question. If you pass the current math test, you don't have to take the new one. All right, you won't have to take the new one. And Judy, you have your hand up here. I let you talk. Go ahead. Hello?
Yes, hi, sorry, my chat's disabled. I was just curious if we take the July the classes, will we be able to still, will it end before the test changes?
Yes, I changed all the dates. And so
Okay.
that it ends at least a week before.
Okay, thank you.
Before. And the guarantee still holds too. So if you take this test, this program, you can take the next one for free too. I'm not going to charge you again. It'll be a different program, but it's for the same test.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Catherine.
Hi, I just had a question. So I am like, my goal is to obviously pass the math, the current one, before they release a new one, but I haven't taken the other half of it yet, like the science social studies. So say like my test date is like the last day I can take the math before it changes. What should I do about like the general curriculum half? Then I'll have to take the new version, I would assume, of that, right?
Well, there's plenty of time to take both before then. And
I
plenty of
just
time to prepare for both.
Yeah, I feel like I've taken the math now 2 times, or actually 3,
Yeah.
and I haven't passed, so I'm, like, really trying to focus on that, but, like, I don't know that I can do both, like, cause like, I haven't really looked at the content for,
I would suggest this. Jump into the next math program that's going to start in a couple of weeks.
mhm,
6 weeks with me, you'll have a good idea of if you need more time on math or you'll pass and you can worry about the next section next. You're not going to need 4 months to prepare for this test necessarily. You know what I
okay.
mean? I'm
Yeah,
going to tell you exactly what you need to do and what you need to study. And you'll know if you're ready or not, what it will take you to be ready. I guarantee you, you'll know if you're ready or not by the time you
okay.
finish.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question about the flex option. There is a flex option now for the general curriculum. So I imagine that there's gonna be a flex option for the new one, but that's just a guess. All right, that's just a guess. And Courtney, yes, we tutor for all the stuff we do. All right, so that's fine. Yeah, so take the class, we can tutor. Again, there's plenty of time now. That's why I kind of wanted to do this and kind of get the word out there, because and other times when tests have changed and people haven't, been ready for it, it's too late and they wish they could turn back the clock. I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen everything, and it's best to get on it. And we have plenty of time right now, 2 test cycles, 2 class cycles before we do anything else. Judy's your hand up again.
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just lower here just in case. And Deb, you want to ask something? Are you there? Deb Mello, you can talk. Courtney, you're welcome. You have my number. Call me anytime. Any other questions, comments, concerns, anything at all? Heather. Hello, Heather.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I just wanted to say that I have taken all of your courses and I have passed every single exam on the first time since taking them. I've been putting off math for the longest time and I'm taking it this Saturday. But I've
Excellent.
passed everything else: general curriculum, communication and literacy, foundations of reading. Thank you to your program.
I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much.
So, and I will let you know how math goes.
Good. And again, Heather's part of the group that I mentioned on Facebook. And so we're always posting information. I don't want to say too much while we're being recorded, but we really try to help each other get ready and make sure we're prepared for the test as things change. a platform for teachers to speak and express their thoughts on these tests. Well, we do a lot of that in the Facebook group, but it's more kind of just bitching and moaning to ourselves. But we calm each other down and answer questions and those kinds of things. Official channels, I think you'd have to go and talk to the Department of Ed yourself, right? You have to kind of go through Pearson and the DOE. My opinion, like big picture, it seems to me, look, we have a teacher shortage, right? We have a teacher shortage, an age shortage. It's really bad. And over the last couple of years, as we've seen since COVID, they're making these tests in some ways easier. They're trying to make them easier and trying to let people pass. That's why we have the flex. That's why we have the alternative assessments for the communication literacy. They want more people to become teachers. My guess, over the next decade at most, these tests will be gone. And maybe things like MCAS too, but it'll take time. And I got that's just me guessing, right? Which my business is gone. So I'm trying to think about different things I can do, right? As we're doing all this new stuff. But if you want to complain about that, I would say write a letter to DOE. You can even go to the government, right? Write your congressman, your senator, state and federal people to let them know, hey, this isn't good, right? All that stuff. And Deb, no problem with the audio. But again, if you've passed the current math test, you would not, as for what they say right now, you don't have to take the new math science test. If you've passed the current multi-subject, you do not have to take the new English and history test. All right, you passed one, that's it, you got it. I'm going to lower everybody's hand. So if you have a question, Heather, do you have another question? No? Okay.
Oh, no, sorry. I didn't realize I had to take it off.
No, no problem at all. I'm not used to webinars either. So this is kind of new to me. I've only done a couple of them now. Brittany, let me allow you to talk here. Yeah, this allow to talk is great. I'm going to try to set one up. Maybe I can have my wife, she'll have to ask permission. She's right here, so I'm getting a dirty look now.
I
Just
know.
kidding, ladies. I'm just kidding.
I know that this is like, I just asked the question in the chat and I know people keep asking. So my concern is if I pass the math now and I haven't passed the multi, where the science and the science will be added to the new one in the math, I technically haven't passed that science aspect. So do you see what I'm trying to say?
I understand 100%.
Okay.
All I can tell you, and I had a live email from Endicott College. I actually have been meaning to post it in the group. Someone asked about it, and we have a bunch of different chats in the group too. And I answered a question in the chat, but I haven't posted the email. So if you sign up, you can jump in the group and you can see the email, or email me and remind me, and I'll send you the email so you can see what they're telling the colleges. And I have no choice but to believe that, because usually they'll let the colleges know before they let the general population know. So I can only tell you what I think, and I think that makes sense. I don't think they would risk 50,000 teachers wanting to burn them. You know what I mean? And like calling their congressman and suing them. So I think they will follow through with that promise.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else about the program, company, Patriots draft, Red Sox? We'll take anything. A couple of you guys I know that we haven't said hello, you guys that I know. All right. If there's nothing else, please feel free to reach out with any questions on the programs. You've got that discount code. And, you're very welcome. I hope to see you all in class and in the group. And good luck in your MTEL dealings either way. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll be, this is recorded, so I'll be posting this up on YouTube and I'll send everybody an email with a link so you can rewatch if you have questions and all that fun stuff. Thanks again.